Hello, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. This is episode 34th of The Hit Show, and I'm super excited tonight. Why? Because I have Mr. Fasieh Mehta on board. He's an amazing person. He's an amazing individual, a very inspiring figure. And before I tell you all about that, I would like to ask him himself what he's all about. So, welcome aboard, Fasieh Mehta. How are you?
Hi, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting and thank you for the honor.
You're welcome.
And I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's a bit long day, but not bad.
Are you currently in Lahore or Karachi, Islamabad?
So I'm based in Islamabad. I'm right now still in office, working and live with you here after, I guess this is my 8th virtual meeting in the day today, the new world that we live in.
You have a busy, hectic schedule. But thank you so much for coming.
Very nice. No, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting.
All right, so let's begin. First of all, tell me about this. Who is Fasieh Mehta? What's your story? What are you all about?
Fasieh Mehta is a perpetually curious soul, a person who is always hungry for something, restless, go-getter, and full of energy. Yeah, that's what I would say. I'm not sure exactly. Many people would call it crazy, the other way they would use it. But yeah, humbled with what the Almighty has given in terms of the opportunities, the learnings, the fair share of triumphs and failures. So, and blessed with lots and lots of people to learn from, lovely, amazing people to be inspired from. So, yeah, all in all, it's a journey, and I'm on that journey where the road is pretty long and continuously changing path, and the destiny is probably very far away.
Some people might call it crazy, but I call it the winning mentality.
Sorry, आपकी आवाज कट गई. What are you saying?
So, some people might call it crazy, but I call it the winning mentality.
Acha. Thank you. All right. Not sure exactly the winning mentality or not, but I believe the experimental mentality may lead to the winning mentality.
Exactly. So tell me about this. What exactly inspires you? What makes you get up every single day to, work for this, hustle hard every single day?
Every single day, lots of things inspire me. First is to do something new. Today, I'll meet someone new. I'll learn something new. I'll do something different. I'll challenge myself to do something I haven't done before, and to continue to rise up to those challenges that are being thrown at my way. The role that I have currently has involves a lot of opportunities that come your way, and problems are opportunities at the end of the day. So you need to be prepared. You need to have a very open mind. You may have a very good plan on what you need to do in your day, but much of it is to your surprise. So that's what excites me. Excitement also comes from working with so many amazing people, founders, young guys who are starting their journey, who are actually going against that tide, against their families who want them to do regular stuff, right? And they want to do something else. They want to bring change. So working with them, being inspired from them, listening to their stories, being of help in any way I can be to create that impact, that inspires me. And on top of it, what really inspires me is to be a role model for my children, to come back home and be able to tell them story, and to be able to tell stories to grandchildren and to them when you grow old, and you have lots and lots of stories to tell. So and they should know that that it's a very disciplined and a different hardworking life that they have to look up to. So yeah, lots of things I would say that inspire me.
Great. Mr. Fasieh, mashallah, you have a very diverse portfolio. You have a very grand portfolio. You have so many experiences under the belt. कि अगर मैं बोलना start करूँ, तो I might not complete, right? But I'll let you explain those yourself. So tell us about your experiences with Punjab Information Technology Board, NIC, Dice, all these ventures, Anthak Ventures. What are all those things all about?
Okay, so yes, you're right. God has been very fortunate. I had the opportunity to work in a lot of different scenarios, industries, cross-functional domains, countries, different cultures, and was very, very fortunate to be mentored, groomed, and coached by a lot of different people from different walks of life. And today you may know them as the who's who in the country. So it all started from a restaurant, a pizza restaurant in Mall Road in Lahore, cleaning tables, waiting for at the tables, and it was a good journey. It was a short-lived one, but rewarding in the sense that the pleasure that I get today in my life by serving someone food is unmatched, and the passion that it brought to me to cook is also amazing. But also a lot of the other things, humility, to stay grounded, and then I worked in banks, did lots of internships. Then I landed a job in a bank. I worked for Bank of Fala, later on worked for Standard Chartered as well. Uh, I worked for an insurance company, and that was in different domains. So got the opportunity to actually learn the hull insurances, the hulls of the whole ships and aircrafts, and lots of motor insurance, fire, visited lots of industries back in those days in terms of assessing the risk. How do you mitigate the risk? Ventured on doing CII, but gave it up, couldn't do it. Chartered Insurance Institute. Alongside, carried on with my studies in the evening and kept doing that as a priority. Wherever the job became a hurdle, I would switch, right? And worked in technology, call center operations, worked as a call center agent, and then became one of the highest grossing agents in terms of you know the commissions and all, and then moved on to the marketing department in that company to bring in business for that company. So where agents would take calls actually, so we would be the ones working in Oceania and Australia and New Zealand, deployed certain campaigns and brought in good campaigns from there. Then moved on and worked in what you may call a SATE environment. So it was a national company, a locally owned enterprise, family owned enterprise. Worked there for a good 3.5 years as a manager, marketing and growth, but essentially looking after HR, IT, implementation, sales, marketing, international marketing. And that was a very, very, so people are not able to experiment. You think you have a fancy degree, you wear a suit, you talk well, you know people well, you have high aspirations, but you don't start from the scratch. So I learned in many of my roles that if you start from the scratch, and then you fall when you go to the top, you know how to climb back again. Even when I started the job at insurance company, I was a graduate, had a decent job at Al Falah that I left, and I had gone there only because I needed time in the evening to go to the studies. But they put me on dispatch. Yep, I would sit on the counter where you receive the doc and you actually put stamps on it that you received it, or you're marking attendance of people, and such other stuff. And it opened new horizons for me in terms of learning that, okay, this has happened, now what can I do? So how do I learn? How do I move from here? But I have some learning. So what about all the people that I can know, because there's so much dark coming? How do I cram this? Who works where? Who handles what? When and how to make this more convenient for people? Whatever, even if it's a minuscule work that you're doing, how can you be more innovative around it? And I moved on, right? So when I had the opportunity to work for this company, which deals in essences, chemicals, industrial raw materials, so essentially products that you would see that are put in cosmetics, right? And that was the time I had to learn about chemistry again, and that was a very daunting task. And I took a huge pay cut learning that job, but took it up as a challenge to rise up. I became the head of a department there, traveled to different countries, brought in good business, established many brands, and Actually, I built a plaza in Shalmi, Papad Mandi, Bothal Bazaar, where I used to sit to sell chemicals, raw materials, and perfumes by talking to people in Punjabi. And that was such an amazing experience and lots of learning. I believe you can't learn enough sales tactics that I learned from my boss there, who's not even, I believe, a matriculate or an intermediate pass guy, but ton of information and tactics on the best salesman that I knew. And I learned more on sales 101 from him than on those Philip Kotler books that probably I might have read. So moving on from that sector, then I moved to jute textile in interior Sindh, worked there, then to food, rice business in Karachi, worked a lot in as a sub manager, strategic growth and planning, so essentially exports, local sales distribution, launched 6 brands of rice in Manama and UAE and in Karachi. And then it occurred that, it's enough. I need to go and do something with impact. And I started looking for jobs in the government. Coincidentally, I landed one, and that was a roller coaster ride. One thing led to the other. I had something else in mind. I landed something else, but I still took it again at a lesser salary. Moved on, uh, got married 3 months down, lost the job. I was jobless the day I was actually getting married. Yeah, lots and lots of challenges. And then still took more. Then did a few more experiments and somewhere. Then landed again a job in the government. Joined PITB as an assistant program manager. Had the opportunity to rise to the level of a director. Learned a lot. Joined PITB, probably 67, 62 people organization. Left when it was like 1,300 something. So we both grew together, the organization and myself. There, I had the opportunity to be part of some amazing initiatives. We did a lot of cool work on e-governance. I co-founded Plan 9, Pakistan's first tech incubator by the government.
The plan that integrated that started in Lahore, right?
Yes, so Plan 9 was Pakistan's first attempt at launching a technology incubator funded by the government. And you can trace the ecosystem only a few years back before that. So you can say that the entire ecosystem is probably that or a few more years old in the startup ecosystem that you see, the whole entrepreneurial support organizations in the country. There are lots of great projects in the provincial government, was deputed with the prime minister, did work in federal government for a while, did work here, then was deputed in Saudi, automated the HUD system there, put the team there, built some call centers here, Pakistan over there for the government, some ERP solutions. Essentially, what excited me was that we are surrounded with problems and we need simple technology solutions to solve those problems. And before this, I had done my education. So I did my undergrad and postgrad in commerce and business administration, then my MBA in marketing. Then I did my CSCP, supply chain professional from Karachi, from by APEX, American Association of Operations Management. Then the government affair, couldn't have time to do any study there. But then, I spent like good 6+ years, I guess. And then it occurred to me that after working for so long in public policy, I am so excited, again, so curious and enthused by how things happen. And having experienced it practically, now I want to understand the theory behind it. So I applied for a master's in public policy and management. I got a scholarship, went to England. And at the same time, I was working now and moved to a development sector, leaving a very large team as a head of a department. There I was an individual contributor, so that was a very different experience. Working in development sector, worked in Oxford, worked in Pakistan, uh, then did a few projects in lots of provincial government, a little tiny bit in Uganda. That was a great experience. Worked there for 2.5, almost 3 years, 2.5 years, yes. And then landed here at NIC, again into the incubation ecosystem. I had been associated with startups for almost the past 8 years, one way or the other, working with some as they're on their board or as an advisor or a coach. And here I am looking after NIC, currently the largest incubator in the country. Lots of exciting stuff that's happening here. It's been amazing 2 years. Sorry for the very long reply.
No, that's actually, this is such an amazing story. And I've got a couple of questions for you. So, first of all, what was your age when you first started working?
Mm, I guess I was 19 and a half, if I'm not wrong.
And you were studying
19.
at the same time, like you were studying in the morning and evening you were going to the hotel.
Yeah. So from that age, when I started working, I was just out of my intermediate, uh, and then I left it, and then I proper had a working experience when I was doing my undergrad, and during my undergrad, even during so back in those days, an internship or a job was not a requirement. Right now, many undergrad studies would require you to actually do some kind of a work or an internship. So it was not a prerequisite back then, but I was excited because I needed that. I didn't have references to get into places, so I knew that I would have to make my way in by the virtue of lot of hard work, and every opportunity was quite different. So yeah, started very early, and throughout continued my studies. So my postgrad diploma, my MBA, my CSCP, my masters in public policy management, everything was while I was working full
Wow. And what's your age right now?
time. So I'm 36 right now. Yes.
Wow. So such a okay. So tell me about this. Like, what? Obviously, it wouldn't be easy to switch from from one job to another job and just leave this and then just go to studies and focus on this and that. So many experiences. More importantly, what was your family's opinion about that? What would a lot of people tell us when we're about to make a shift? A lot of voices come in, a lot of negativity. Don't do this, don't do that. Scope, nahi hai, this word scope, and all of these things. How did you manage and handle all those things?
So my family was very supportive. My dad passed away when I was very young, and hence I was also pressed by the economic situation in the house to go out and do a job. And my mom was a sweet lady, God bless her soul. She was just a very typical housewife that you would see in Pakistan who doesn't know anything about outside world and is only dedicated in raising her kids and the family and nothing else that she knows of. So was her case. And there was not much resistance in the decisions, but her decision mattered a lot for me. So, for instance, when I was working for the call center, I was doing graveyard shift, but then I was not studying during those 5 7 months, and she would be all right. But then I started studying again, and she said it's very difficult that you go for your evening classes and then you're doing these graveyard shifts and you come back. So find a job that is in a decent time. And I guess that was probably the only thing. And then during that time, I still remember I landed a pretty decent job, which had the opportunity to move to California later on by one of the service group companies called On Point Technologies. Pretty decent offer. But I rejected that, and it never mattered, or I never bat an eyelid because there was no second thought about it. Whatever she wanted meant a lot for me. So not much resistance, but had a huge what I say, experience, different experience, bunch of different experience when I was being interviewed. So I even had experience when my resume was thrown at my face. People would say, it's fake. It's too good to be true. I don't agree, I don't buy in. And people would say, you're not, what do you say is the right word? Um, you're not persistent, you know? And I was very solid in my head because I wanted to do my education, right? I knew it that if I don't get this done, I would be stuck at a certain level. I won't be able to grow further. So whatever they said, I didn't care. And I would rebut. Some would agree, some would not. Those who would agree, we will have an agreement. I'll do the work. If they don't, I left. And whenever I felt that anything in the early years of my career was a hindrance in pursuing the long-term goal, which was actually to establish myself, yes, but also do my at least very basic level studies, undergrad, grad level, and all. And I did that. Uh, Things were different, but I also had a decent job, decent money, and all. But then things moved on, and I knew that I need to spend more time in getting a lot of experience, and it requires a lot of time and work, dedication. And I did that wherever I had to work 3.5 years or 6 years or more. Uh, I have probably many dozens of rejections in the career in terms of the interviews, but I guess these were stepping stones, and still they are in terms of learning so much about yourself, about what people want, and then that what I believe completes you. If you look back, it would seem like they were all small pieces of a larger jigsaw puzzle, but when you're going through them, they're very daunting. that, oh, you're not persistent, or you're not doing this, you're not doing that. And I always wanted to experiment. I wanted to know how the banking industry works. I was very curious, as I said earlier. I was very curious how the insurance industry works. So I even did IBDP. I was very young when I used to code. I used to build e-commerce websites. I used to code in C, C Sharp, Java. I mean SCJP back in the days when I was, I don't know, 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. So I'm certified Java programmer. So I used to write code a lot, and back then CS used to excite me, but circumstances changed and I couldn't pursue that, and I was asked to do a job. Hence, I chose commerce as a field of study, which I didn't like, but then I had to start to like it, and I really really liked how people would crunch numbers, how people would do business and plans. And I was a CS guy. I would only know how to code. I would love to just create new things. Yeah, so life gives you opportunities. It gives you challenges and barriers. You need to know. You need to be able to move, to pivot, to tweak, and make the most of it.
Wow. Mr. Fasieh, so many setbacks, so many failures, so many rejections, and so many business switches, and so many experiences that you've went through. Tell me about this. What key learnings did you develop from those rejections, failures, setbacks, all of those experiences?
So, what is it that you want in your life? It should be very clear. When you're starting your journey in your career, one should know what's your motto. What is really that you cannot live without? कि मैं ये नहीं करूंगा तो मैं जिंदगी में कुछ नहीं कर सकता. I can't even live without a day. I can't do any job, any work, even if it's minuscule, even if it's grand. This one thing is probably a primary component, right? And those one, two, three, four, whatever those things are, would start defining the criteria of what you should go for, right? So for me, I figured it. I used to read a lot of self-help, personal wisdom books, attend lots of seminars. Robert Schuller, Fasieh, Robin Sharma,
Totally.
Tony Robbins, many years ago, 15 years, 16 years ago. And I realized that I'm pretty hardworking. I would really dedicate myself, put my head down into things, and would be pretty damn honest, can't fluke about it. But whatever I do, no matter it's hardworking or honest or dedicated, I want to create a difference. I want to be different from whatever others are doing. So if you would say no, I would feel challenged to do it, right? And then I wanted to do it. So if someone told me that you can't do this, I said I will, and I'll go and do it. And that sort of always inspired me. No matter what job, what challenge, a lesser salary, a more salary, a entirely different new domain that you don't know and you want to learn, I'll do it. And the earlier ages, your 20s, especially early 20s, you should be able to, in your late teens, experiment a lot. But I didn't know about this. And now when I work with different people and being part of different cultures and being exposed to different cultures, I realize how important it is to be able to experiment. So one thing is that, and if you ask for the other part, that what have been the key learnings, like one is to don't give up. Nope, you can never give up. So if you give up, it was not worth the shot. Give it your best shot, right? Whatever you could do to achieve whatever you want to do in your life. And every job is done in two parts. One is in your hand, so you've done yours, good, and the rest is divine. It's not in your hands. And the earlier you realize, the better, right? And you move on. So you give it your best, and then you leave it to the rest to the Almighty. And by best, it doesn't mean कि बस 9 से 5 कर सकता हूँ. नहीं, why not? Everyone has the same time. Seldom people are so successful because they put in their heart and soul and every tiny bit of time that they have into achieving what they want to achieve. So that was the first lesson, to don't give up. The other was fail fast. Be open to fail. You will be that much closer to your goal and to your success. So fail fast, fail forward, and fail often. And the other thing that I learned was be stupid. Be stupid in terms of, don't think that you know all. Always be open to absorb more knowledge, ask more questions. In the childhood, I was not encouraged to ask questions. I was discouraged when I would ask questions. And I realized that that shunned many doors of knowledge, and they open to you when you are curious, when you ask. And the answer may not take you to the right path or what you wanted to know, but it would lead you somewhere, right?
Mm.
So what's the harm? So ये तीन बातें हुई. One thing else, very important. So you keep asking, you keep open, you're learning, but then always try to be with a bit of different set of people. Choose your friends very wisely. You can be in a company where you can have all the joy in your life. You can go party, you can marry on, and you should. Friends are very, very important, but have a different level. Choose some who are intellectually superior to you. Choose some who are more experienced than you. Choose some who are younger than you. And then you'll always have your peers and your mates at your age group level. But this mix will keep you grounded and will keep you excited and motivated to do more. And I guess yeah, that's pretty much it. That has so far been the key takeaways from this wonderful experience.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Fasi. So my next question is about this. It's about failure, and it's if you were to think about all of the, years of enormous body of work that you've done, what has been your life's biggest failure, and what did you learn out of it?
Well, I won't say there has been one particular bigger failure, but many. Sometimes we realize we are too strong. I always thought I was pretty damn strong, and I can withstand anything that comes my way. I've seen the worst. I've seen really, really bad days in terms of my dad's last days in his health, my mom, they've gone. I've been through a lot, different struggles in terms of financial, corporate, economic, jobs, you name it. So I used to think I'm pretty strong. And then life moved on, got married, got blessed with children. And I moved on with the same mindset that a lot can be achieved alone, and not realizing the importance of family and the role they play in your life, and the role that discipline plays in your life.
Mm.
So you always sometimes worry, I have to wake up early in the morning, 8 o'clock. I have to sleep, and this and that, and there's work. Well, guess what? Take all of that out. That's what happened, right? If you, for instance, don't have a job or a business to go to, and forget everything else, do not have family, you have the time to enjoy, marry around. What is the most you could make out of it? You'll have 7 days, 10 days, the bubble will burst. And soon you will go cracking, and it will dawn upon you that how much it is important. Balance is important. That takes some time off and do that. So I believe these were setbacks. Setbacks to when I was testing myself to the limit while being alone or moving away from Pakistan, or doing certain ventures, that I realized that many things in life we take for granted. Our loved ones, our people who are elders, who are mentors, and sometimes I really think I could have learned much more from people who are not with me anymore. Other than that, one thing I realize is also that if you really, really want something, you're very serious about it, and sometimes you think, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it next time, or there's still a week left, deadline nahi hai, chahe wo it's an application for an admission in a university, or chahe it's an amazing presentation that you have to give to your boss and he has to give to the board. Don't do it. There's never that time. There's never going to be those 2 hours. There's never going to be a week. Everything will pass away very, very quickly. Believe you me, I'm just saying this from experience. And the last minute, some people get a kick out of it. Some people say, oh, I'm having this rush. Adrenaline is rushing through the body. Because I have these 2 hours and I'm so productive and I'm under pressure, then all those signs. But you have to train yourself not to do that, because it puts a toll on you. Your health is very important. So lots of such realizations came along, but no such major regret that I would say, I missed it. All those issues, all those challenges, those setbacks, those humiliations, right? Public humiliation. Even I remember it was being broadcasted live to national television. There were 3,000 people in audience. I was with the prime minister. there was a big ballot to happen, and my team had designed the whole software, and I was standing right next to the prime minister, all these ministers, and there were hundreds of cameras glued onto you, and there's an audience, 3,000 people sitting, and he took the ballot numbers from everyone, and the prime minister was so excited, and we go, boom, now we're going to do that, and the screen goes blue, like 404.4. Oh my god! And I was like, oh shit, what happened? And my whole team sitting, I was like, why doesn't this earth crack open and I sink in? And even my boss sitting there, right in the audience, she would shy away and would not come to the rescue and all. And I was like, oh, Murphy's law has kicked in. And that was such a difficult moment to absorb. And everyone is asking me, kya ho raha hai? Ye batao na kya ho raha hai? And there's a guy in the audience, and you're on national television, right? And it taught me. And then there's another ballot, right? After that, 6 months later, and I was the project lead for that, so we did it again. But there was so many learnings. Why? Because you need to be open. What I've realized in my life is, no matter how prepared you are, have this preparation in your mind, you will fail. First, you think you're prepared for good, have a B plan, C plan, contingency. What if the net goes down? What if the guy is not available? Who will fill up for this? What if we leave early, the tire goes flat? And people plan while you're doing events, while you're doing budgets, while you're making a product. But be prepared. Have in your mind that 10%, 15%, 20% slot, it would go down, it would fail. Something might happen. And then how would you cope? All that is in your control is lost. Then what would happen? So that learning was amazing. Again, I have no regrets. I believe had that not happened, I would not have known that there is an unknown territory. There's a known in which you are comfortable in operating. There is a known unknown in which you make strategies for the future and all. And there's an unknown. And your real learning lies in the unknown. Because that is that place where you become uncomfortable, where you push yourself to the limit. Oh, I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I'm not comfortable. I don't have the skills to do it. Oh, if this happened, what would happen? But when you get out of it successfully, triumphant, you feel relieved. You have a positive attitude. You have learned something. You feel proud of yourself. And that's when this curve goes like this. You evolve. So, yeah, I won't say there's been regret. Alhamdulillah, it's been a very, very nice, very humbling journey.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing this. I feel like this is like the first time I'm hearing this strategy or perception of, the known and unknown territory. I feel like this is a very beautiful distinction. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mr. Fasieh. So my next question is about financial wisdom. I feel like even in Pakistan, I don't know about abroad, but especially in Pakistan, talk about universities, talk about colleges, talk about schools, talk about even, basic parenthood in your homes and in your families. Nobody teaches you about financial literacy. There's no such concept about that. Because so many people are in this endless cycle, in this rat race going on and on and on and on. And nobody's, doing that. So if I were to ask you to give, special insights about financial, wisdom and financial literacy, what would you say?
So you're right. It's very important. And why it doesn't happen? We have a very different criteria. But in Pakistan, there are different cultures. So, for instance, in Karachi, Maimans have this amazing sense of financial literacy and wisdom built into their families at a very young age. So do in this country the Sheikh Biradari. I have lots of friends. My very close childhood friend is a Sheikh, Hafizabadi Sheikh, because there are so many different types, and they're not the Sheikh that you would think of in UAE or those oil-rich sheikhs, and why? Because at a very early age, they put their children on shops, on how to earn, how to spend, what to do out of it. And if you look at the West, what happens is that when if you're in grade 3, you're putting up those lemonade stalls during summer holidays outside your home. And you grow a little older, you're throwing newspaper across the block. You grow a little older, you're flipping burgers around the corner. You're doing lots and lots of jobs, community services, you name it. Running for, doing a radio show somewhere. Or by the time you hit 18, you've done a lot of experiments. You know how difficult it is to earn money. And by 18, you're out of home. You're on your own. You're independent. You have to earn your livelihood. That culture is not much practiced here. At a very young age, we give children what they want. We don't incentivize things. We don't teach how to save, how to spend. I've been a victim of that. I'll be very honest, especially the saving part. And it dawns upon you when you're loaded with responsibilities and you have a lot of responsibilities to take care of and financial liabilities that start hitting you. You're responsible for yourself, sometimes for your parents, your family, your children, and you don't know how to manage wealth. And even in our courses, in our culture, in our education system, in media, it's not talked about. They don't tell you how to save money. They don't tell you how to spend wisely. Because guess what? That's how consumerism runs. They want you to spend. They want everybody to be spent. So all that glitters is not gold has been taught in books through different contexts, but not through the economic context per se. And if even if I talk about religion, Islam has very very solid learnings on economics, right? On home economics and otherwise, handling money, and that should be part of the culture. So it's not. So how does the financial wisdom come? The financial wisdom comes when you give children at a very young age a pocket money, but that's a pocket money on a daily basis that you do. But you don't ask them, if you save this much, you'll get this. And at a very young age, you'll see children saving for their buying their Xboxes. At a very young age, children saving, but you won't see children saving at a very young age for something bigger that they want to achieve 18 years down the line. So some countries encourage families to save money at a very early age. When they marry their child, they should be sent for Hajj, right? And the state will sponsor whatever you save. They will, match that fund. Many other ways to encourage that. In our country, it's not the case. But financial wisdom often is there when you are on the street. Sometimes it is even in the conditions when you're not, but more often when you're on the street, when you're suffering, and you have very less to spend, and then you really, really know how difficult it is. But the earlier we start spending, the earlier we start earning on our own, our children should be out to learn this as early as possible, mostly in our teens. The better off and more financially wise we would be when we grow up.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Fasieh. And here's a thing that I've been thinking. So if you've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, written by Robert Kiyosaki, he talks about this, how, parents, even in the West, they don't teach this, financial literacy to their, children. And so that's like a major thing why, there's just 10 to 20% of people that are like, huge, they're just rich and they have a lot of wealth. And then there's a, wide social gap, wide economic gap. So all of these problems. And so if you read that, I'm sure. So what do you think about that? Like, even in the West, like we have this problem, right? Your mic is mute, I guess.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no problem.
So Rich Dad Poor Dad, I said, is amazing. What a great book, and I believe what Kiyosaki has done. Many people. This is a book that should be taught when you're doing your metric or O levels or A levels. That's the time, and we don't. We end up reading it at a very later age, and that too, if you know about it, if you've heard of it. But how do you stay motivated? So people normally go and do jobs or find a job or something to work to make money, but not to learn, which actually Robert says about it in the book. And how to spend money is very important, and how do you save this is very important. So what percentage of your salary should be dedicated when you start earning for savings? I mean, that's like a no-go area. It's a no-touch zone, no matter what, to save for that rainy day. And then where do you invest, and what are those ways or instruments to put the money in? And so that you plan well when you become one to two to three to four people. Where would that come in handy? And also plan for what would happen 50 years down or 60 years down. And we never think that far. And there's lots of good advice there. For instance, how do you acquire assets? We don't talk about it. Everyone thinks of a end goal in mind, like having a nice Ferrari or a Fortuner or a Civic or a nice car. But why don't you start from getting that cycle first, right? And you think of a very nice mansion around the beach or a great big house, but why don't you think about co-investing some with someone in very small assets that you keep, converting into get a bigger asset like a support asset. So ye cheezein, these things are not taught. That, as you mentioned, the financial literacy part. For instance, asset is what, and Robert talks about it in his book. Asset is what puts money into your pocket. However, and it is very important to understand. And what is cash flows, for instance, in terms of how do you predict what would you get, how would you spend it. But there's always this illusion that you have, when we're growing up, we're so driven by consumerism that we have a plan. I'll get the salary or the paycheck or my commission or business revenue in XYZ months, and I have like A, B, C, D, E, F things to buy from it. Let's get this from that. Let's get this when we get it. And even if I don't get it, oh, I have a credit card. Let's use that. And you max out your credit cards, and then you're under debt. And that's a vicious circle, my friend. And I'm saying it with experience. It was hard to get out of it. And the earlier you learn, the better off you are. I didn't have anyone to tell me back then. I learned it through experiences. Had I known all these amazing tools, books, and ways of financial literacies, I would know. Then when we're growing up, we don't know how we manage our finances, about from the taxes point of view, from recording point of view, and how do you make the most out of the taxes that you're paying, right? When you're filing those returns, how do you understand that withholding or advance taxes can be redeemed, whether it is adjusted through your salaries or through your returns that you file, and lots of other wisdoms, and it's a great book that you have mentioned that I strongly believe everyone should read. But there's so much to be practiced at a young age. We get this in our lives at a very late age. But khair, as they say, dare I perhaps but this should not be a norm. Yeah.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Mr. Fasieh. So when I talk about the startup industry, you're a major force in the startup industry. In simple words, you run NIC, right? And you're a part of so many other ventures, so many other companies, so many other forces and organizations. So tell me about this. People, listening to you right now and later on YouTube, what advice do you have for young entrepreneurs as a person? So, for example, for me, I'm 24 years old. I consider myself, I don't call myself a entrepreneur. I consider myself that because that's what I want to be. That's what I'm, taking action towards. So I'm becoming a doctor. I also want to be an entrepreneur. What advice would you tell me? What advice would you tell to so many other young entrepreneurs?
So don't be married to a solution. That's very important. हमारे यहाँ, what's the dilemma is that we have an end in mind. So I'd say that I have this amazing cool app that I want to make, and it will solve so many problems. And we marry that solution with a problem, which is supposed to be the other way around. So one dilemma mostly entrepreneurs face is they don't dig deep into the problem. They don't understand the problem well, and they don't identify what is the root cause of it. So if you say you're solving the issue of garbage on the street, or you're solving the issue of mobility for truck drivers, go deep. What is it? Whose issue is it? Which sort of driver? Big lorry ones, smaller ones, the going on big routes, small routes. What's the demographic? What's their age? What's their literacy? Do they use technology? Do they have a phone? Do they listen on these songs on this because of the long drives? Do they listen WhatsApp? Do they have 3G, 4G connections on it, etc., etc.? So how much you understand your problem? Is it a real problem? Have you talked about it? Is it a problem? What's the scale of it? Is it a problem of your household, your family, your neighborhood, your city, province, interprovincial, countrywide, international, global? That scale has to determine how much you would scale. You would grow, and people don't dig that. So one of the issues, amongst many others. One other advice I would give is that have the commercial angle. Why would someone pay you the money? Did you ask someone that if I give you this service for this much? So be open to ask questions. Be a hustler. Daily speak to someone about what is so exciting that you're just motivated, you're passionate to do it, and keep talking to people about the people that you believe understand that domain or understand you around you, people who have the experience, and look for someone who's been there, done that, who can mentor you, right? And be open to have more people in the journey. It's a very famous African proverb that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go further, go together, right? And the earlier you realize, the better. And that's where the founder marriage happens. And this is a marriage of the vision, the mind. So your mind's aligned. That this is the impact we want to create. This is the passion we have. This is the goal. We will solve this problem using this. And that person doesn't join you for money. That person joins you for the vision. So that's important. Have you thought about it? How would you scale? How would you make it big? The other advice, other than this, is that think local. And it's not like button dabayenge and overnight you become, the computer will churn the code. The next day you'll have a product. The next day, boom, you run a great social media campaign and you're a superstar and you're a rock star on TikTok or on Instagram and you're an influencer and you're minting money 6 months down the line and you're driving that cool Fortuner that you always wanted or a Ferrari that you wanted. No, it's not. It may be a rare case. It may happen in a relatively shorter span, not 6 months, but it's not going to be the case in most cases, right? And how and why? Because it's the journey, not the destination. And an entrepreneur has to be prepared to be a jack of all trades when it's the start. You're the ones who knows the numbers. You're the one who has to know product development management. You're the one who has to be a very good communicator, to be always ready to pitch your idea and your product to people of interest. Those would be your customers, your partners, your investors, a competition pitch, an incubator, an accelerator, your academia, etc. And your parents, whoever is funding you the initial round, etc. You need to be very good in the product development, whether it is a manufacturing thing or is a code that you're writing about it. You need to know the market and the customers. You must have done research, and by market you mean the competition. So if there are people who are doing it, what is it that they've missed that you want? So what is that unique proposition, value proposition that you offer? And then identify how would you make money? What is the business model, revenue model? How long would be that cycle? How would you acquire the customer? How would you retain the customer? What would be the cost to do that? How much of it are you willing to put in? And how will you get traction? How will you make a lot of people excited about it, like pre-sign-ups and all those contracts before you make money? And then what's the end goal? You want to be $100 million company. You want to be acquired by, let's say, you're doing something great in music. You want to be acquired by Pepsi. At the end of the day, you want to be bought out by Uber at the end of the day, or anyone else, whatever you're trying to do. And while you're doing it, right, don't forget the customer. What is that customer? What is the value you're creating for the customer? How much you have researched? Have you done anything on understanding the persona and all? So do talk to people. Do be open to ask questions, but questions that would lead you to identify the problem, the pain point, and then to create the value add that would help in relieving that pain. This is important. There is never one answer to this that you ask that what is the advice of the entrepreneur? It is all of this. Be prepared. So this myth in your head, get out of it. Be prepared. Be open to fail. Be open to experiment. Do it a lot. Fail a lot of times. Fail fast. Move forward. And as I shared with you earlier, do a lot of research. So go and identify the problem, dig it deep, and that is where the real ideation has to stem from. So yeah, this is the advice for the entrepreneurs.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mr. Fasieh. So now this is the most exciting question that I have for you on the show. And it's this. Mr. Fasieh, if you had all the time in this world, if you had all the energy in this world, and if you had all the money in this world to do anything to keep yourself healthy, what would you do and why?
To keep myself healthy.
Yeah.
If I had all the time in this world, I would do only the work that I love to do, which is mostly to create impact in lives, positive impact in lives of people around me, to push them to do something in their life that they never thought they are capable of doing. To be surrounded while I'm doing this by my loved ones, my friends, to live in a place where there is peace, there is greenery, Islamabad. There's there's a nice weather. To be with my family, to be with my kids, to be with my friends while I'm doing this. And as you say, what would it, if I even had the money and all, so what would keep me healthy? I guess to do something that can help those who are underprivileged, so that there's that sense of self-actualization and also giving back to the community, and it keeps you grounded on what you have gratitude for that. So one health aspect is that because it contributes to your health. The other health aspect is the mental health that I told you about. And physically, I would love to dedicate time, whether it my office or my home. Since I'm going to be having a lot of money, I would pay the best trainers to be with me all the day, to make sure that I'm in shape and push myself and my family to be in shape. Probably, have an entire floor in the house only dedicated for personal fitness training, and invite someone over in the day, in the morning, early hours of the morning, to put us all to a task, and grill us hard on being physically fit. And since we're talking about money, we should only eat very, very healthy food. Get rid of all these curries and oil-rich foods. And whoever talks about Nihari and Halim, shut eyes over there and only eat. Yeah. But that would be the ideal world, which doesn't exist. The reality that exists is that you create a balance. And the balance is created with what you have. And then you have to have gratitude. And then the hunger and the struggle to always continuously improve with what you have and make your and the lives of around you people better. And then you feel healthy physically, emotionally, and mentally.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mr. Fasi. So my next question is about something that I think it's very serious. I think this problem is not talked about enough. It's about mental health. I think there are lots of stigmas attached to mental health. Even if people talk about mental health, they only focus on the problem and nobody focuses on the solution. What's your take into mental health?
So it is a taboo subject, has been for a long while, and it's not talked about in our households and all. Many, many issues. For instance, men are thought of in this world to be more stronger and women to be not that strong. If a man cries, you give that stigma, don't cry like a woman. Why? When a woman cries, do you say don't cry like a man? So why a man can't cry or only a woman can cry or a woman shouldn't cry or a man should cry? These are all stigmas we attach, and we put undue pressure on people because of their gender, because of their abilities. And you say, you're grown up, buckle up. No, why? Don't do that. Listen to the person, right? And then he or she might be going through a genuine problem. And, mental well-being or mental health is very important. And there's a stigma attached to it because many people, when you talk about mental health, think that, you mean not of sound mind. They go for the other connotation of it, of the word. Uh, it is extremely important how you detox. Leave some screen for time, do something that makes you feel relaxed, have some fun. Always have someone to talk to. We are humans at the end of the day, we are social animals. It excites us. As I said, surround yourself with the friends and family. This is beautiful if you have anyone around you. You're blessed. Don't leave them because they're the ones who bring sanity in your life. And they would strike that balance that is important. And always have someone to reach out to talk to, who will not judge you no matter what you say. And if you're the other end, hearing your friend or person talking to you, don't judge her or him on what he or she is saying to you, no matter how good or bad it is. Hear them. They need someone, and it's very important. It's a very serious problem. We ignore it. We use the term depression very often, which is a clinically diagnosed disease and is a serious problem and needs to be treated. But everyone's saying, I'm depressed. Oh, no, you're not. Why do you think you are? You know? Or you might be, but let's hear you out. What happened? What went wrong? Why are you thinking like that? And you realize sometimes it might not be the case. Sometimes they just wanted someone to, talk to listen to your story. Be open to talk to people. Be more considerate. Don't judge. That would be my only advice.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mr. Fasi. My final question to you is about this. What is that one thing that you want to leave the audience with tonight?
One thing, no. You know, I practice this a lot. And I leave that with one thing with you: be open to experiment. That's all. Do what you really want to do in life. Uh, I really wanted to play drums, right? And then I got an opportunity, and I used to play it a lot when back in thing. But I was in England, and now I my these days I really want to learn guitar. I want to play musical instruments, but I would never be able to do that unless I do experiment with it. I might be very miserable. I might fail at it. I would suck at it. I won't know how to play it, but I'll learn eventually. That's for sure. And you challenge yourself. So go and challenge yourself on good things that you can achieve in your life, on things that you otherwise thought were unachievable. And I'm all saying it in a positive sense. So don't do and challenge yourselves on evil or negative things that you want to do in your life, perhaps, or someone is enticing you to. So, yeah, be open to experiment and be open to fail. That's all I would say.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Fasieh. We've had some deep questions. You shared such valuable insights. I'm really honored to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity. And yeah, I had a great time. Thank you.
Thank you, and Allah Hafiz.
Hafiz.